Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. When you guys see me talking, let me know in the comments, because I don't know why I don't trust this thing when it tells me I'm live. I just don't, until I start seeing some comments. Anyway, your friendly neighborhood philosopher, David Wood. And with me now is the man, the myth, the legend, Jon McCray, aka What Do You Meme? Hey, don't let me forget.
Right. What up?
We should end, when we end, let's make sure we end with a what do you meme? I'll ask you,
All right, you got it.
when we're closing out, I'll ask you some ridiculous question that you can respond. What do you meme?
All right, you got it.
All right, well, we're going to be talking about racism, ladies and gentlemen. So obviously I had to get one of my black friends to join me for this live stream here.
Of course.
But we're going to talk about Kanye, of course. And I would not have been interested in talking about this because Vocab and I already did a show when Kanye did, the White Lives Matter shirt and then sent his tweet saying he was going DEFCON 3 on Jews. And so we'd already discussed this stuff. And so when the new stuff came up, I wasn't really interested. But there were kind of two things. There's one, that he's couching all of this in terms of like Christianity. Like he's sitting there holding a Bible and talking about Jesus while he's going on some insane rants. And the other thing is that back then I hadn't watched enough of what he was saying to realize that he is in the manic phase of bipolar disorder. I mean, once you watch the full interview with Alex Jones, I mean, he is clearly, I would say, indisputably. I mean, any psychologist watching that would say, "Oh, this dude's in the having a manic episode," and we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But so one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is because not only is he in having a manic episode because he's bipolar, people are taking advantage of him. They're using it when he's going to burn out. He's going to burn out and like burn everything to the ground, and then it's going to wear off. And all these guys who are taking advantage of him, they're going to turn their backs on him real quick. But before we jump into anything, what are your? I know you have really poor musical taste, so I don't know if you listen to Kanye. But what are your thoughts on Kanye before all the crazy stuff?
Yeah, I never listened to Kanye a whole lot. I mean, of course, he has so many songs and so many hits and stuff. You know what I mean? He's good. He's talented. You know what I mean? And his music's good. I haven't, paid much attention to his music career for, I don't know, the last at least 10 years or so as much. Most of the stuff we hear from Kanye is in the news. But so I don't have too strong of feelings one way or another with Kanye's music. I just think he's good. He's talented, but I just don't really listen to him.
Yeah, I'm only familiar with one song, that's Gold Digger, because they used to play it on the gym I used to go to. So we'll go in there and they would play it. I didn't even know it was Kanye. I didn't know who it was. I was just oh, that's a pretty cool song. And then I saw it was Kanye, and that it was Jamie Foxx who was singing. I was like, that's pretty cool. They had Jamie Foxx singing. Anyway, quick comment here. UFOs are real. Said he's definitely bipolar. Lol. So am I, though. No excuse. Not saying it's an excuse, but there are degrees of how bad the manic episode is. UFOs are real. I'm saying this because my brother's bipolar. Some people, when they have a manic episode. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there's a disorder called bipolar disorder, and in the past it was defined as like going, back and forth between a manic phase, which is like this period of extreme energy and so on. You feel like you can crush the world and so on. You're just super high energy. Some people like don't need sleep for days and stuff when they're going through this, followed by a depression, and then then there'd be a normal phase after that. But they actually took the depression out of the requirement for bipolar disorder, because some people just have the manic and then the normal. But the manic episode for lots of people is just this period of like heightened energy. They get really energetic and so on. But for other people, they actually they have a psychotic break. They start having like hallucinations, delusions, and so on. Same because my brother, who's bipolar, has that, and it's been worse since he had an overdose, and he went into a coma, and he came out, and now it's worse to where when he's having a manic episode, he thinks he thinks everyone around him, his friends, his family, are all conspiring to kill him. And he will actually call the police saying they're all trying to get me, and they're like, "What are you talking about, sir?" And they're like, people are trying to kill me and stuff." And police will come over and stuff like that and try and figure out what's going on. And then everyone has to explain, no, he's having an episode right now. But notice, based on what you just said, we would have to say, well, there's no excuse for him saying this. Well, I mean, you kind of have to realize that you're not dealing with your brother in a normal sense when he's having a psychological problem. Same thing with someone who is schizophrenic or something like that. If they're having an episode, they're having an episode. So you got to take that into account.
I think this person is saying that there is no excuse because he's saying he's bipolar as well, so there's no excuse for some of the things he says. That's how I read what he's saying, but yeah.
Yeah,
maybe not. Or maybe
no, I agree.
Okay.
He's saying there's no excuse for the things Kanye's saying. I'm saying, yes, the things Kanye said, and we're about to look at some of them, are completely evil. And here's the thing. The question is, does Kanye believe these things when he's not having a manic episode? That's the question, right? Because again, if you were to judge my brother based on things he says when he's having a manic episode, well, he's saying completely false things about everyone who's closest to him. I mean, he's saying like really messed up stuff that normally he does not believe. So Kanye, it's like a question when he's saying all these things about Jewish conspiracies and so on, about Hitler being a really great guy. We're about to see this, or let's say Hitler having redeeming qualities or something along those lines. Does he normally believe those things, or is this part of a psychotic break associated with a manic episode? If he doesn't normally think these things, in other words, put it this way, he's going to snap out of this in either a couple weeks or could be up to a couple months. He'll eventually snap out of this. And what's he going to be like then? Does he believe these things normally? Or because there's a scale. It could be he doesn't believe these things at all, and now he's just having an episode. Or he could believe these things, but he's normally quiet about it, and now he's having an episode and he's blurting out what he already thinks. And then there's could be anywhere in between. But yeah.
Actually, if you kind of look into it, a lot of this stuff he's been saying it for years now. I saw some they had some clips even on TMZ and stuff. There's like clips from like 11 years ago where he's been saying stuff around this. So who knows if this kind of final version is kind of just part of the break, or if this is just this is an accumulation of things he's been quiet about, and this situation has kind of been inflammatory towards how he feels towards the situation, and it's causing it to lash out. I mean, who knows? It could be a lot of different things.
Yep. All right. So just to recap for people who weren't here, let me bring up the sort of recent how this all began recently. So a little while back, there was Kanye, and he was standing with Candace Owens wearing a White Lives Matter shirt. And so you asked Kanye why he's wearing a White Lives Matter shirt, and he said, because they do matter. And back then I was thinking that he was just like trolling people, like, oh, I've got a new, because there are people who do that. Like, they believe that any controversy is good because everyone's going to be focusing on you, at least temporarily. So I was thinking, he's got an album dropping and he's trying to drum up some controversy. Before we continue, Jon McCray.
Yeah.
Can you say that white lives matter?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want to say. Yeah, I think there's, it's funny because I think there's two aspects to this too. I think I guess we don't even have to digress into that, what it kind of means, what the controversy is, and that sort of thing. We really don't have to. But yeah, nice one. Are you trying to get me to just say it so that way you can make a meme out of it or something?
Well, it's a funny thing because no matter what you say, you're in trouble, right? Like if you say, yeah, sure, white lives matter, then I'm going to put out there, Jon McCray declares white lives matter. In response to Black Lives Matter, Jon McCray declares White Lives Matter, and then you're in trouble. But if you don't say it, then you see, Jon McCray doesn't agree that white lives matter. So
Yeah, no, that's
right.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Up now you're delayed. Would you mess with your audio?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, I was trying to fix it because people
Oh,
were
you're,
saying that it sounded like it was. Does that sound better or worse?
uh, I don't. You always sounded fine
Yeah.
to me, and now you're
Okay.
delayed.
Okay.
Now you sound the same, and you're delayed.
Oh no.
Do you want to
It'll
hang
probably
up?
kick in.
Do you want to hang up real quick and call back?
Go ahead. We'll see if it kicks in here, and I'll just hang around for another 10 seconds or so, and then if not, I'll get off and get back on.
All right. Um, so there was the White Lives Matter shirts, and that was part of what set off the most recent controversy. And then there was Kanye's tweet, but he said, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." He says, "The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew also. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone whoever opposes your agenda." So that set it off recently, and then he got interviewed by Lex Friedman, and I watched part of that. And what it sounded like in the Lex Friedman interview, what it sounded like was Kanye's had some bad experiences with Jewish producers, managers, whatever, people in the music industry and so on, and was upset about that and was sort of venting his anger or something like that. But then when we watched the Alex Jones clip, it's hard to imagine someone saying worse things when you're like defending Hitler and Nazis and so on. So it gets real rough. All right, let's get John back on. Let's see if his voice matches up. Hello, John.
All right.
Go ahead and talk. Let's
There
see.
you go. Is that better?
It looks okay to me.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's roll with it.
All right. Okay, so should we check out some clips so people know what we're talking about?
Yeah. I was gonna say let's start with some clips.
And this is interesting, guys, if you actually watch it, because people like me are putting clips together, and here's what he said here, here's what he said there. You don't really grasp how incoherent he is until you just watch it. He's like jumping around from topic to topic with no apparent connection at all between the things he's saying. And I saw him say, I forget where it was. I don't remember if it was in this one or the Lex Friedman interview, but he would like pause and he would say, "I'm sorry, I'm thinking about like 7 things at once." And so he is having some jumbled thoughts here.
That's
But
a
let's.
Tim Pool interview. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah. Oh, nice, John. You remember the stuff. I totally forgot about the Tim Pool interview. Yeah. He got up and walked out.
Yeah.
And this is this is messed up because this guy is so delusional. He's thinking, I'm going to run for president, and people really like me. This is wild stuff, man. This is. I mean, again, if this were someone with no issues saying this stuff, it would just be, this is a horrible, evil person. With Kanye, it's how much of this does he believe and how much of it is because he's having some sort of break with reality right now. And then beyond that, there is the issue of people latching onto him to use this temporarily for some popularity. And I think that's clear. But let's go ahead and watch a couple of clips here.
What do you want to cover here today?
Just God runs the world and Jesus is the way and the life. And it's time to put Jesus first in the way that we run our businesses, the way we run our families, our businesses, and the way we run our country.
Hey, let me pause it right there. John, you agree with that? That we need to put Jesus first?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We should put Jesus first, but it
See?
depends on the context that he means too. But yeah, I mean, we should always put Jesus first. But I'm saying when he's talking about to run our country and stuff, like a theocracy, and then that's where we'll have some kind of differences.
I'm just gonna cut that. I'm just gonna cut that first part Jon McCray agrees with Kanye West.
Yeah, I'm putting Jesus first. Absolutely.
See, it's funny because I mean this ongoing concern that's sort of woven throughout everything is everyone understands we can't trust the media right now and so on. Like, and
Right.
we're going to see how this plays out. But it's like an example. That's what the media would do if they wanted to blast you. Jon McCray agrees with Kanye. All right, let's continue this.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the more and more I'm faithful to Christ, the more and more he's going to keep unlocking the blessings. You know, he set it on my heart to build communities, to build farms, to build schools, to build the choir. But when you do that, you have to be really obedient. You know, let me get out my phone.
I just wanted to pause right there. I mean, you know, it sounds like he has a lot of good intentions as far as wanting to build communities and things like that. And so him saying, well, I have to, you know, and you have to be faithful if you want to get this stuff done and put Jesus first. But then for the rest of this goes so completely off the rails with, you know, Hitler's not all that bad and the Holocaust, a bunch of that was made up and so on. Pretty creepy stuff. All right, let's go ahead and hear some more preaching from Kanye.
I can like really pull up the exact thing it says in the Bible. The general gist, and we'll get back to it after the 5-minute break, is that you have to stay strict to everything and remove as much sin as possible in order to serve God.
Hold on.
Right here, the Bible says right here.
Let me pull this back up.
And
Hey, John, you see that guy over on the right?
Yeah.
That's Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes.
That's Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
I don't watch. I have to say, every like young 20-something brown-haired white guy kind of looks the same to me. So it kind of looks like all those atheists that you interact with. Will you acknowledge that looks exactly like some of those skeptic? I can't even tell the difference between them in my head. There's like cosmic skeptic and there's genetically modified skeptic. Would you agree that are you going to say that looks like one of those guys?
No, because he doesn't.
I keep trying to get him in trouble. I don't really believe anything. I don't really believe some of the stuff I'm saying right here, but I don't know. That's like I keep trying to get John in trouble, a little bit of trouble. All right, let's go.
All right.
order to serve God. Right here, the Bible says right here, I know I'm going to do a Corinthians 2, like Trump, new Christian kind of reading of this. So bear with me. I love Jesus, but I'm not the most, experienced Christian. The book of Proverbs,
Correct.
6:16-19. I'm sure that's the wrong way to read it.
It's okay. You got the floor.
Wait.
Okay. Identify 7 things that God hates, although there are not any.
What'd you say?
I said, what happened to Corinthians? Because he said he was going to Corinthians, right?
No. He said, like Trump, because Trump got in trouble when he said, and my favorite verse from 2 Corinthians, and people are like, you mean second?
Okay.
People are like, you mean 2 Corinthians? You mean 2 Corinthians? It was clear that he's not. Which I mean, I've heard people who just say 1 Peter, 2 Peter, and things like that. But it was clear that he's just like reading something that someone made for him. So Kanye's pointing out that like that, he doesn't know how to give appropriate references and so on.
And
Then it's weird because he mentions the passage in Proverbs, but he's reading some article. He doesn't like Proverbs. That passage in Proverbs is the passage that says there 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination, something like that. And it says haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that are quick to shed innocent blood, and so on. So it lists those things, but he's actually reading some article here. But yeah, let's go ahead and see what he says here.
Punishments prescribed for those. Scripture clearly indicates that God does view sin differently, and that he prescribed a different punishment for sin depending upon its severity. You got alcohol and pornography are these legal drugs. Alcohol is a spirit. We're gonna go into the spirit of alcohol. Let's just go to the facts today. Let's not just even do opinions. And I love how you brought that in, because now you got God's warriors coming together.
And again, that was one of the reasons I want to address this. I mean, Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones, and Kanye, God's warriors coming together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's reading a little bit there, and I didn't include the part, but this is just another example. He'll say things, hey, we got to put God first and so on. And then the passage he's quoting from Proverbs, he's just arguing that some sins are worse than others. And I agree. There's a sense in which if you violate any command of God, you violated the commands of God. And so you're guilty of doing that. But he's right. The Bible is clear that doing certain things like when Jesus is talking to Pilate, he says, the ones who handed me over to you are guilty of a greater sin, right? They're gonna get a worse judgment because they have more knowledge of what's going on.
Right. I think the distinction there is that there's all sins, every sin equally separates us from God. And so you have like James 2:10, where it says if you've broken one part of the law, you've broken the entire law. And then you also have Paul making the same argument. So the point there is, well, when it comes to our salvation, all sins equally set us apart from God. But the consequences of those sins are different when it comes to this world and in judgment, not that aspect. So.
Let me see. So, yeah, but that's another example where he'll be saying something, and so it's cool because he acknowledges he doesn't know a tremendous amount of what he's talking about, and he's saying he admits that he's sort of fumbling his way through these things, but he'll say some things. You go, oh, okay, I get what he's saying, but then immediately after he just said that right there, he goes into a discussion of pedophilia, and he starts saying, so there's pedophilia, and we condemn pedophilia, but the woman in a pornography video or the stripper is someone's daughter, so that's pedophilia too. It's like, wait, what? Wait, what?
Well. So do you agree though with what he said about the spirit? Alcohol is a spirit, David?
I don't know exactly what he means.
I'm just trying to do what you did to me.
I don't know what he means. I mean, various kinds of alcohol. Alcohol are called spirits. They're called spirits. But him saying that there's a name of the spirit, alcohol, I have no idea. That sounds really weird to me. If it
he does a lot of play on words, so he might be doing a play on words there or something.
But I don't know. I don't know if he's read that somewhere and that's some claim of some group or something like that. I have to say I'm not familiar with that one. So we have Kanye there. And by the way, we didn't really comment on his outfit, did we?
No, we didn't. Skipped over that one.
Let me pull up the next one.
A lot of times in media, they want to.
I mean, this dude's like full burqa here. He looks like there's a character called the Gimp in Pulp Fiction, but he looks like the Gimp escaped captivity and became a NASCAR driver or something like that. I don't know. Weird outfit.
Yeah, it's weird. But I think honestly, some of this stuff boils down to just some personality type stuff. Granted that Kanye makes sense. I think there's a personality type that likes to look very different and unique. So everything they try to say and do, they want to kind of whatever is uncommon, they want to go with that line. You know what I mean? And so whatever you can do to kind of not fit in with people, that's what they want to do. And so I think that it's plausible to me that Kanye probably has that sort of personality inclination as well on top of it.
And I mean, when I first saw this, it reminded me when Eazy-E was on Arsenio Hall. He came out wearing a mask like that and wouldn't show his face. And I was like, I'm wondering if that's some sort of, I don't know what that is, but I'm wondering if there's some sort of issue, just want to cover up my face right now.
I was thinking too, how does he breathe and see in that thing? You think he can see and breathe out of that?
I don't know. I mean, he looks like Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. Trying to blend in at a Mumford and Sons concert or something like that. I don't know, but I don't know. It's so weird. And I didn't see the end. Did he ever take it off?
No.
Oh, I saw.
No, but see, so maybe we should talk about that real quick because there's a lot of people that were saying in like my comments and stuff on my video that like, this isn't really Kanye. How do you know that this is Kanye?
That's
He's
Kanye
probably being set up. Yeah, that's obviously Kanye. Yeah, and I was thinking about this. I said, okay, let's say this isn't Kanye. Don't you think if Kanye was being set up, he'd come out and say that this was not him at this interview? For one. For two, let's say that they have him kidnapped, the conspiracy plot thickens in this way, right? So they have him kidnapped, he can't say anything or whatever. Two, Alex Jones, I'm sure they're not going to just let anybody into their studio without seeing their face, right? You know what I mean? And whoever's playing Kanye has to be the world's greatest Kanye voice actor for personality and everything all in one on top of it too. So I think when we start looking into like some of these wild conspiracies in those sorts of ways and just trying to explain them with another conspiracy and deeper, then we start getting into stuff that honestly this sort of epistemology would actually make Christianity false if you start following this line of thinking for how we even believe the Gospels and the Bible and everything else like that as well. So anyways.
Yeah, I agree. If this is not Kanye, whoever it is, he should win the Oscar for best actor, because this is spot on. Yeah, so this is indisputably Kanye under this mask right here. As for, some of you who are watching who have a background in psychology might understand the mask situation. And people
I was
are
wondering too. I was just going to say real quick, I wonder if the mask kind of emboldened him to say some of these things that he was otherwise kind of afraid to say. I'm not trying to speak for Kanye. I don't know his intentions or what he was thinking, but I was just thinking that's a possibility that maybe it's like when his face is hidden, he feels more confident and comfortable to be able to say things that he otherwise would feel uncomfortable saying. So,
and I can vouch for that. I did some plays back in college, and they told me when you put the mask on for the character that it's going to affect you, and it does. Once you're in full makeup, looking like someone else, or you're wearing a mask or something like that, it does. You do. It does make a difference. Now we mentioned Alex Jones. Alex Jones seems, during this interview, it really seemed, because this ties into what we were saying about, problems with how the media represents people that they don't like. It really looks like Alex Jones was thinking, oh, the media, they're calling Kanye anti-Semitic. If I just get him on here and let him clarify his position, I'm going to find out. No. He's just complaining about some specific bad experience or something like that. But then he gives him chance after chance after chance, and Kanye just gets more and more and more insane here. But are you familiar with Alex Jones, John?
Yeah, just from YouTube and interviews and that sort of stuff. But
so John McCray is a fan of Alex Jones.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'll agree.
I don't know enough about Alex Jones before. Again, I'm against some of the conspiracy stuff that he says, of course, against some of that stuff, but I don't know enough about him otherwise to know whether. He seems likable. Like, I like his personality. He seems cool, but I doubt I agree with him.
That's what's funny, because a couple years ago, I had never seen an actual Alex Jones show or video or anything. I'd only seen compilations that other people put together where he was saying the most insane stuff. Like after every shooting, he would say it didn't happen. These are all actors, and these people they're just. This is a big hoax to take away your guns so that they can justify taking away your guns and stuff like that. I was like, gosh, why do people listen to this guy? He sounds like a nut, right? And then one day I actually watched an Alex Jones video, and I got it. I got why, this guy's hilarious, right? So it was after Joe Rogan had mentioned him, and Joe Rogan was saying, Joe Rogan was really nice because he's had him on his show before, and he said, yeah, I don't think Alex Jones is mentally well, and if I saw him, I wouldn't hate him. I just want to give him a hug. And so I'd seen that, and then when I saw the video come up, Alex Jones responds to Joe Rogan. I was like, oh, okay, is he gonna say something nice in response? And I clicked on it, and it's Alex Jones, and he's going, oh, so Joe Rogan wants to give me a hug. Well, let me tell you, I don't want a hug. I want war. I'm here for war. God has sent me here to wage war. And I've been sent here in the name of Jesus to choke Joe Rogan and put my hands around his neck. And I was like, whoa, this is like hilarious. It's probably before your time, John, but I grew up in the days of like wrestling promos. Right, the wrestlers would give these little promos for their upcoming matches, and like the best whoever did it was definitely before your time. It was Ric Flair, but then you got into like Hulk Hogan, and Roddy Piper was good. Macho Man was awesome, and then there was a lull where they weren't good for a while, and then The Rock came along, and The Rock was really good. You might remember him, but those other guys. They would do these promos and be like the Macho Man, like looked like his head was about to explode when he'd do, listen here, Hogan, when the Macho Man gets a hold of, ooh, yeah, right? So he's like that, but like the whole Alex Jones video I was watching had that kind of vibe, and I was like, oh, I get it. This is fun. This is fun to watch. This is not boring, right? It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I think it looks like Alex Jones really thought that Kanye was going to come on there and clear things up, and didn't.
Oh yeah. He threw him all kinds of alley-oops too. He's like, yeah, so just so we're clear, you're not saying this, right? And he'd throw the alley-oops, and Kanye just wouldn't take it every time. He's like, no, that's what I'm saying.
For people who haven't seen it, let's go ahead and show them. All right, here's some more Kanye.
Single out one person and burn them to the core. That is a Zionist approach. And they're asking me to use that same approach. Well, hey, don't say all people, just say specifically the businessmen.
You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone, and Jewish people are not going to tell me, you can love us, and you can love what we're doing to you with the contracts, and you can love what we're pushing with the pornography. But this guy that invented highways, invented the very microphone that I use as a musician, you can't say out loud that this person ever did anything good, and I'm done with that. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler. How about that one? Ari Emanuel, how you like that one? Hey, Ron, you gonna do anything to fix Chicago? It's hidden. Even like our truth, the fact that African Americans were in America before the Pilgrims, that truth is hidden. That we are actually the Native Americans, or some of us are Native. Or the fact that what Kyrie got in trouble is pointing out that we're Jewish slave boats.
Schwarzenegger said he loved Hitler. They gave him an award. I'm just saying, I don't like Nazis, and I don't like what some of the mafias are doing either.
I like Hitler.
I've said it, the most Nazi-like activities I've seen, and the Nazis, in my view, were thugs that shook people down, did a lot of really bad things.
But they did good things too. We're going to stop dissing the Nazis all the time.
Okay. It is such mind control to say, white people, you've got white guilt. They actually say, you're bad because you're white. Help us kill black people. What type of freakish, crazy world is that? Gay?
Zionist.
So there he just said Zionists are responsible for abortion, right? My goodness, but
there's a lot there, though, too, right? There's a lot there to come back. There's a lot there. That's what we say is like, so I agree that we should love everyone, right? Obviously, a good thing is like we should love everyone.
Hey, you're breaking up a bit.
Oh, am I delayed?
Yeah, no, you're not delayed, but everything you say, there's a little pause between it, and then it's a static sound. I don't know if that's going to go away after a second. Go ahead, talk. Oh, it went away. You're good.
Hear me again now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I said that we'd agree that, like, I mean, at least I'd agree that we should love everyone. We probably agree. You should love everyone. You know what I mean? And everybody is made in the image of God, right? And so I don't think it's wrong to say, like, even someone like Hitler deserves love or something like that. It depends on what you mean by deserves and love. But I'd say that as Christians, we are called to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, whether we agree with them or disagree. So that part we agree with. But it's not, that's not really the issue, is him saying that. It goes beyond it. And then he's saying, especially Hitler. And then he goes on to
you're cutting in and out again. People are pointing out that we can kind of hear every other word. Okay. So it went.
Go ahead and. Let me try to check these. Go ahead and make your point, and I'll be back in a second.
You have different headphones? It might be. Is it your headphones? Yeah, I'll go. I'll go ahead and I'll carry along where you were just about. Um, but yeah. So, and I saw people pointing this out in the comments. Some people were pointing out. Um, is he just saying that we should love everyone, or that everyone is created in the image of God, or something along those lines? And in which case you'd say, oh, okay, yeah. But this goes back to what I was saying before. He'll say things, and then he'll just say something else to totally derail it. So, did you want to check your audio real quick?
Yeah, is that a little better?
Yeah. Would you have different
Okay.
headphones?
No, I just had to take them off and back on, and yeah.
Okay. We'll see if it lasts. But go ahead and continue your thought.
Oh yeah, so basically I was just saying like that there's a part to that too, but there's a lot of different things he said here too. Did you catch the Israelite stuff as well too? I don't know how much we want to get into that, but he seems to be referencing like Hebrew Israelite doctrine here and there. Even the part that
Your headphones are doing it again, man. Are those things charged? Are those things fully charged?
yeah, I don't think it might be just no. I
Turn
always
those
have tech problems.
turn those off real quick, and then just start talking.
Okay. It's not these actually. I'm looking. Hold on. Let me see if it.
Okay, is that better or worse?
It's better than cutting in and out.
Okay, now I switch it to the headphones. My microphone was on this. So,
Go ahead and talk.
okay, can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Is that good? Okay. Okay. All right. I lost. Oh yeah, I was talking about the Israelite stuff. So, if you caught that too, when he was talking about, and he's talking about Kyrie Irving, and there was even a part in the interview too where he specifically said that Kyrie did a lot for the Israelites, and by that I think he's referring to the Black Hebrew Israelites, which we can get into later as well. So this is different than when a lot of people just kind of hear him talking about Christianity. I don't know where Kanye's at. I don't know if he's a Black Hebrew Israelite, if that's what he's claiming, or not. But he definitely is referencing the Israelites quite often lately. So that's something else we can talk about later if needed.
Yeah. So on that issue, the most charitable thing you could say. The most charitable thing you could say is he's just talking about, hey, everyone's created in the image of God, and, we should love everyone. I mean, even as Christians, we're told to love our enemies. So if Hitler's your enemy, keep in mind, biblically, this does not mean you have warm, fuzzy feelings towards someone. Biblically, it seems to mean something along the lines of you want what's best for a person. So, if I'm talking about an ISIS jihadi right now and I say I love my enemies, it's like, hey, I want what's best for that ISIS jihadi. What's best for him? Well, he needs to renounce his beliefs and turn himself in to face trial and turn away from all that stuff. And so it's something like that. It's not, oh, he's fine, whatever he's doing. No, that dude's evil.
Right.
No, that dude is evil. So if that's what Kanye meant, some Christians would be sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
There is this issue of him when he says especially Hitler. Everyone has something to bring to the table, especially Hitler, and then it's just nonsense. He said Hitler invented highways and this microphone. No, he didn't. Hitler did not invent highways, and two, he didn't invent a microphone. No, he didn't. What sort of nonsense has Kanye even been listening to? But I mean, I'm trying to figure out. Go ahead.
Real quick on that point, the problem wasn't that you can see good in people. As much as he didn't condemn the bad that Hitler did. In addition, from what I heard, I listened to the whole interview, and I don't think there's a time where he said what Hitler did was wrong. Even though this part about him is good, this part about is what he did is fine. But he didn't say what he did was wrong too. And then he seemed to deny the Holocaust. I don't know to what extent, but that's where I think the bigger problem is, because it's one thing to point out the good, but it's another thing because, the Bible says we're all bad, right? It doesn't say we're all good. You know what I mean? Even though we're all made in the image of God and stuff. But I think that's where the big problem is that he didn't seem to specifically address the claims address the problem of what Hitler actually did and what was wrong with that.
Yeah, and so so there's part of what he's saying, if you gave it the most charitable interpretation, he's saying something like, there's good in everyone or something like that. And to that extent, he would be right. You could say, okay, well, I mean, Hitler was obviously good at motivating people, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's to do horrible stuff. But it seems to go beyond that when he says, I like Hitler. And hey, we need to stop dissing the Nazis and stuff. It sounds like he's saying more. Notice he said we need to stop dissing the Nazis. No, that goes beyond anything. If you're saying, hey, some of these guys must have had some good character, like maybe some of them were intelligent, maybe some of them were nice to their own kids, even though they're throwing other kids in ovens and stuff. But you don't say, well, let's stop dissing them then. It sounds like he has a very favorable view of what they're doing, and that's and I'll go ahead and say along the lines of what we're just talking about. There's Immanuel Kant here. So Immanuel Kant, German philosopher, but in his work on morality, he said the only thing in the world that's good without qualification is a good will. The only thing that's good without qualification is a good will. And what he means by that is every other thing that you point to as something good has to be qualified. What do I mean there? Well, take something like courage. We would normally say courage is good. You'd normally say intelligence is good. You might say wealth is good. So there are all these different things that we could call good. So courage is a virtue. Virtue is good. Intelligence, that's an intellectual capacity. You'd say that's good. As something outside yourself, wealth, being able to have a house, something like that. Those things are not good without qualification. In other words, suppose it's a serial killer who's very rich and very intelligent and very courageous. Well, if you're talking about a serial killer who doesn't have a good will, he's evil, then his intelligence and courage and wealth are bad. They're going to allow him to get away with killing way more people. And so it's along those lines that I'm thinking of someone like Hitler or Nazis or something like that. You can pick out any, characteristics that someone has. If someone happens to be intelligent or someone happens to be courageous, all right, you've got Nazis running into battle. Some of them are obviously courageous. If you have an evil will, none of that, I'm not calling any of that stuff good. I'm not calling any of this stuff good. So, and you can obviously look to anyone in history and say, oh, this person had this positive quality or something like that. If the main thing you did was declare war on the entire world and throw kill millions of people, I don't care if you were a painter or something like that, right? In addition, because Hitler was a painter, not a tremendously great one, but he's a painter. I'm not going to say, I like him. He was a painter. Well, okay, you also killed millions of people, dude. So anyway.
Yeah. Because that degree of bad outweighs the good in terms of from our perspective here on Earth. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're killing millions of innocent people, you know what I mean? Like, I agree with what you just said there. But
so that's the issue with with that stuff. I mean, like, of all the things you could say, like who's he been interacting with where he thought it's good to come in there and start talking about Hitler and the Nazis as good dudes?
And he said Hitler seems like a cool guy. That's what he said in there. He's like, he seems like a cool guy. Yeah. I mean, because Hitler would have had Kanye killed as well, just to be clear. So, I don't know what you mean by cool guy, but yeah.
Yeah. So this is, my goodness. All right. Should we go ahead and check out this last clip?
Okay.
We'll go ahead and check out the last Kanye clip here.
The perfect answer for the ADL.
Okay, and this is I put these in here because it really, there are a bunch of issues like this where you could tell he's just incoherent. Jumping from one topic to another, can't make heads or tails. Some of the stuff that we just covered where he's talking about Christianity, or even when he's talking about Hitler, you start making sense of it. But some of the other stuff, like when he's telling jokes and so on, we're just looking at the jokes because it shows this is not normal behavior here, even for someone who's weird.
They are going to have to listen up. What we did is we brought Netanyahu with us.
I mean, I'm in the twilight zone right now.
Netanyahu, what do you have to say? What do you have to say to Alex Jones right now, Nick Fuentes and Ye? It was bad. It was bad for Trump to meet with Nick and Ye. Okay. I had no idea your voice is going to sound like that, Netanyahu.
So you don't like Benjamin Netanyahu?
I just heard about this guy 2 weeks ago since like the tweet, and I thought he had a funny name. I heard he's like really into he's like a super killer. I could die for saying this. So in case this
let me pause it right there. Now, notice he just says he just heard about Netanyahu, saying he just heard about him. So he just heard about him from someone, maybe some of these guys he's rolling with now. But he's admitting he doesn't know anything about him, and yet he comes out with this net and a bottle of Yahoo to make fun of him. And so that's what I'm talking about there. You don't just hear about some guy and then he becomes the target, because he's going to keep making fun of him, and he starts making fun of Ben Shapiro. But let's let Ye finish this.
last time you ever hear from me.
Well, look.
I'm leaving for now until it's another meeting, and then I'm gonna say something. All right.
You're not only an artist, you're a comedian.
I got some jokes here from Owen Benjamin that I want to read about Ben Shapiro. Hey, Candace Owens, unplug this robot before he runs his mouth. Ben Shapiro's cardio is picking up shackles. Shapiro can tell how much change is in your pocket just from hearing a jingle. Shapiro is just mad that Kyrie won't sign his basketball. Back to you, Alex. And if I say something that's provocative towards the Mossad, is that misogynistic? Hold on, let's hear from Netan. Hey, I'm the head of the Mossad. I'm gonna kill you and take the children away from you. Thanks a lot, Netan. Back to you, Alex. I was tired of picking up the Yahoo and the Netan, so for now, he's just Netan. I know some people call him BB, but we're gonna call him Netan. What you want, Netan? Hey, right after this, I'm gonna say you're crazy. I'm gonna take your family away from you. We're not done with you yet. You cannot cause free thought. We have to control the history books. We have to control the banks, and we have to go and kill people. Also, we're in the pedophilia.
That man is not well.
Yeah. I mean, I think of any other context here. So, like, say you're sitting at Starbucks and you see a grown man, what is kind of like 47 or something like that, or 46, somewhere around there. You see a grown man making fun of somebody's name with the net, doing all these voices like Elmo and stuff like this. Like, that is strange, right? Like that, I mean, and I don't know if you can come up with diagnosis just off that, but I'm just saying, like, that's something to take into consideration, where that doesn't seem normal to me. At least, but yeah.
No, and I mean, Kanye has been diagnosed as bipolar in the past when he was having episodes, and then he came out and he said it's a false diagnosis, and then later he admitted that the diagnosis is correct, and then later once again said that it's a false diagnosis. He's not bipolar, but that kind of fits someone who's bipolar, right? You have mood swings and you're deciding things based on the kind of mood you're in. And we don't mean, guys, when we talk about mood swings, we're not talking about normal mood swings that people go through. These are much more extreme, and they're longer lasting. Normal people go through a mood swing in a day. Bipolar people will go through mood swings that last weeks or months. And again, with some people who have bipolar disorder, the manic phase, which is the phase we're seeing of Kanye right now, is accompanied by delusions, conspiracy nonsense, hallucinations, things like that. And so, matter of fact, let me go ahead and we're going to close out here in a few minutes, but let me go ahead and pull up. I got this off Healthline, but I mean pretty much any pretty much any site's going to say the same thing about the manic phase. So mania and hypomania. Mania is the worst one. Some people have milder symptoms. But so this is the manic episode. Let's read the description right here. An episode of mania often involves an emotional high. You might feel excited, impulsive, euphoric, and full of energy. You might also feel jumpy or notice your thoughts seem to race. Some people also experience hallucinations and other symptoms of psychosis. So that could be delusions, thinking people are conspiring against you and so on. Manic episodes can involve behavior that's more impulsive than usual, like melting down your entire career in a period of a couple days or a couple weeks. Often because you feel invincible or untouchable. So thinking you can take on, notice if you think people are conspiring against you, you think you can take it on. You can defeat that because you're invincible. Often because you feel invincible or untouchable. Commonly cited examples of this kind of behavior include having sex without using a barrier method. I don't know why they didn't just say condom, but without using a barrier method, using alcohol and drugs or using them more than usual, going on spending sprees. But impulsiveness and risk-taking can show up in plenty of other ways too. Maybe you quit your job abruptly or mouth off to everyone until you've melted down your entire career. Take off on a road trip by yourself without telling anyone. Notice he starts flying around. Anyway, never mind. Make a big investment on a whim. Drive much faster than usual, well above the speed limit. Participate in extreme sports you wouldn't ordinarily consider. So notice, but the idea is you have these feelings of invulnerability or invincibility. You start taking things on and behaving in a very dangerous fashion. That's just like normal mania, that feeling invincible and doing dangerous things. When that's accompanied by psychotic issues, then you get what Kanye is going through right now. And again, as I said earlier, the question is, what does he believe when he's not having an episode? And John, you've pointed out that he's said some of this stuff in the past, and so the question is, does he normally think that Hitler's a guy he likes, and that we need to stop dissing Nazis and things like that? Does he actually believe that there are these conspiracies against him and so on? Because this is the thing, guys. If you're talking about someone who's paranoid and thinks people are conspiring against him, notice. Suppose no one's conspiring against Kanye and everyone just wants the best for him. Well then, if he starts blurting out that, he's going DEFCON 3 on Jews, you kind of have to step away from that and say, okay, we can't have anything to do with him. So there's a perfectly normal explanation for what transpired after he said he was going DEFCON 3 on Jews. But also notice, if there is a conspiracy against someone, and you step out of line and the people who are in the conspiracy have to crush you, what would happen? Well, they're going to crush you, right? They're going to crush you. So notice, you have a completely normal explanation, namely people don't want to be associated with a bunch of Hitler praising or going to war against Jews and so on. So any normal person is not going to want to have anything to do with you after that. But if you're the one who's experiencing it and you're conspiracy minded at that point, the evidence fits your other theory that everyone's conspiring against you. In other words, John, if I started going nuts right now and I started thinking, Jon McCray is actually conspiring against me, and I say, John, I think you're conspiring against me, and you say, what are you talking about, David? You sound like an idiot. I'm not conspiring against you. Aha, that's exactly what I would expect you to say. If you're conspiring against me, I would expect you to deny it. So the evidence, so notice, if you're not conspiring against me, you're going to say you're not conspiring against me, I'm crazy. But if you are conspiring against me, you're going to say you're not conspiring against me, hey, David, you're crazy. So either way, if it's, the point is, once you latch on to a conspiracy, the evidence is always going to fit your conspiracy theory. The evidence is, you can make any evidence fit your conspiracy theory, and that's why it's really bad to start getting involved in conspiracies.
Yeah, and the thing is too is like the point is not that like all conspiracies are false. That's not the point. The point is when it comes to the problem of epistemology. It's like if there's no way to falsify the premise in your conspiracy, that's where if every explanation you have is just to prevent your conspiracy from being falsified, then that's when you've lost touch with reality. Because I think this is a problem with a lot of atheist conspiracies too, like about Jesus didn't exist and this sort of thing. You can have an explanation for anything, right? So Jesus didn't exist; he was created just so that way, the people in power were controlling the people then, and they just wanted to create it. They're like, well, what about the people who knew Jesus, right? And the people who documented and stuff. And then you have like these historians like Tacitus and all these ancient historians that are writing about Jesus and Josephus and all, and they'll say, well, they were part of it too. They were in on it too. Well, what would they gain from that, right? Well, they wanted to gain power and control. Well, where's the evidence of that? Well, it's there. Just look into it, man. That's what I hear from and a lot of these things all the time. They're like, I'm sorry, but you just got to do your research. Just look into it, man. And a lot of this stuff I look into, but that's the problem. If we're going to say that these atheist conspiracies are wrong and ridiculous, we have to be able to hold ourselves to the same sort of criterion. You know what I mean? So no matter what it is, we want to try to be as consistent as possible with what we claim to believe. Because I think if you can get in conspiracies and literally never come to accept the Bible. And so that's why I think it's dangerous when Christians get into these bad conspiracies that are irrational. And not saying that all conspiracies are false, by the way, but I'm talking about in ways of how you, the standards that you provide in order to try to determine if something is a conspiracy or not is usually flawed.
Mm-hmm. And for everyone out there who hasn't had any mental breaks, I'll go and tell you what it's like, because I mentioned in my testimony video a couple of examples. So earlier in this video, we talked about I mentioned one of my brothers who's bipolar, and that this was exacerbated by drug problems, and that he just has manic episodes where he thinks everyone's conspiring against him to kill him, and he just has to be institutionalized for a few weeks, and then he goes back to normal. So I'm not bipolar, but I have had delusional thoughts and so on. So in my testimony video, I pointed out I think I was around 8 years old. It was somewhere. It was definitely in the 7 to 9 range, because that's when I was visiting my grandfather where he lived. But he had a trailer that was close to a lake. And I went and I was totally alone by myself at this lake, and I was watching these ants. And I concluded while I was watching these ants, all of a sudden it became clear to me that ants actually controlled the world and had tricked us human beings. So in other words, they're smarter than us, they're more intelligent than us, and they're actually controlling the world and have deceived us. And if note it's not any sort of conclusion that follows because of some evidence I had accumulated. To describe it, it's kind of weird. I don't know if you remember those. Have you ever seen these, John? These they're like pictures, and they just look like designs, but if you stare at them long enough and let your eyes go out of focus a little bit, a 3D image comes out of it.
Yep.
And so it's like that. You're staring at it. All of a sudden, a 3D image comes out, and you're like, "Whoa! How did I not see that before?" That's what it's like. It's not, oh, this argument, this evidence carried me to this conclusion. It's just like something becomes obvious to you all of a sudden. It's, whoa, how did I not see that before? And so then you could say, well, I was a little kid, I was stupid. But the point is, all of a sudden, it becomes perfectly clear to me that ants control the world and were smarter than we are, and that I was the only one who knew it. And so I've figured something out that the rest of the world hasn't figured out. But then, shortly after that, it just goes away. It's not like I've realized it's false. It just kind of stops, and you just stop thinking about it. So anyway, that continued on multiple occasions, not with ants. It was just ants then. Later on, it was other animals like, cats at one point and dogs at another point. I was 18, and then all of a sudden the same thing happened, but it was the entire world was experimenting on me. And that was right before I attacked my dad with a hammer. Although I have to say, no connection. It was not because of that that I attacked my dad. They're one was not because of the other. Yeah. But I concluded that everyone is conspiring against me, that the wall behind me in the room I was sitting in, it was in my house, that the wall behind me was actually going to raise up. If you were able to raise up the wall, there were like scientists back there monitoring me and so on. Now, why is that insane? Well, one, it's insane to think that I'm part of this experiment. But two, I'd been on the other side of that wall 1,000 times. It's right outside my house. But I really became convinced that there are scientists behind this wall. So there was that. I think I talked about all that stuff in my testimony video. I don't think I talked about afterwards where they put me in a mental hospital. But in the mental hospital, I kept going back and forth between thinking that all of these guys are experimenting on me. And there's a sense in which they are, because they're all psychologists and so on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these guys have been experimenting on me like my entire life. I've always been part of an experiment. These guys are in on it. So I kind of went back and forth between thinking these guys are, experimenting on me and then not thinking it. But I was in two different mental hospitals at different points. This was Chestnut Ridge Psychiatric Hospital in Morgantown. It's more like a hospital. It's like a hospital, but for mental patients. So it's like hospital rooms. The only difference was I had a guard that followed me around everywhere in case they thought I might get violent or something like that. So I have this guard who's assigned to me. Later, I was in Central State Psychiatric Hospital. That's more like a prison, but for mental patients. So it's a much worse setting. Anyway, this was the nice place, and I actually had a window. But I kept wanting to break the window because I kept thinking that it was a screen, that it's actually a digital screen. And I kept thinking, well, if it's just a screen, how come, I can see parallax, right? If you see parallax, basically if you have two things that are different distances from you, you can, move your head and one moves more than the other, so you can tell when something is a screen where it doesn't. You could go up to your TV screen, start moving like that, things don't start moving. But if things are actually three-dimensional out there, you can see the parallax and so on. So I'm looking and I was like, no, it looks real. But I'm just thinking, well, what if it's really advanced technology? And so now, again, the insanity of that, apart from thinking everyone is conspiring against me, was I grew up in that town. I'd been outside there. I'd been to the places outside that window. And yet I'm still thinking I need to break this window to see if it's a screen. And the thing that would stop me is, what if that's what they're trying to get me to do? What if that's what these guys are trying to get me to do? And then it would stop, and I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't think about it anymore. Again, it's not like I conclude at some point, oh, my theory about these guys experimenting on me and this being a screen is false, and I've seen it falsified. You just somehow just stop thinking. It just goes away. And then it comes back later, and then it goes away. So that's what it's like. So for again, someone like Kanye, the question, he's clearly, if you watch that and you have, just the little description of a manic episode that we read, if you watch that, he is clearly in a manic episode. And take into account that this is a guy who's been diagnosed as bipolar. This guy's clearly got some mental health issues. And once again, the question is, how much of this would he agree to when he's not in this kind of episode? Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys, because, I'm sure you're the same, John, but, I'm rooting for Kanye in the sense, not in the sense of I hope he gets to go share these views, but I'm hoping for the best in that, like, he doesn't really believe this stuff. If he wants to say, hey, there were some Jewish guys in the music industry who really gave me bad deals or something like that, that's fine. That's fine. I'm hoping he doesn't believe this stuff about Hitler and these massive conspiracies and things like that. So I'm rooting for him in that sense, that I hope this is just a, manic episode, and that, a couple weeks or a couple months from now, he's going to snap out of it and go, guys, I'm really, really, really sorry for everything I said there.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think it's worth talking about too, noting that what was kind of troubling about it too is, like, Alex Jones tried to make a lot of analogies, try to give him a lot of chances to explain that he doesn't think that all Jews are bad. He doesn't think that all Jews are evil and stuff like this, but Kanye would not respond in that manner, from what I remember at least. Again, I listened, is like 3.5 hours, but like that was a bit of a problem too, is because um, Alex Jones made an analogy where he says, okay, you have the mafia that are Italian. You're not saying all Italians are bad. He said, really, you're saying the mafia is bad, right? And he kept giving Kanye these chances, and Kanye would just keep dodging the question, or just respond with something else and just say, well, I like Nazis, I like Hitler, they were good, they're cool. You know what I mean? So that's the sort of stuff that makes it seem way more racially, more of a racial issue rather than actually being some sort of thing that's independent of race. You know what I mean? And so that's where I think the problem is. And then just real quick, while you're talking, I was thinking about the problem with conspiracies, in the sense where it's like, when you're talking about the situation you went through with like the ants and the dogs and stuff like that, well, the problem was this, like a practical way to kind of think about this is that, like, in logic, you have premises, right? And if these premises are true, and if they connect, then you have a good conclusion. You know what I mean? But what logical fallacies are, they're like a misstep in these logical premises. Either the premise is wrong, or it doesn't connect with the other premises, and that's where you have an issue. So when we make any argument, so let's say David Wood, David Wood, so we'll say your belief was something like ants are smarter than humans. Ants are taking over the world. How do they make this a deductive argument? Give me the premises there. Something like this. What would be the other premise? So it's like, therefore, oh yeah, and I is something that you have superpowers to know. So therefore, you would know if ants are smarter than humans and are taking over the world. Something along those lines. Bad deduction argument, but yeah. So the problem there is the premises aren't true, right? Like none of those premises are true, and so like what a conspiracy will do is say, all of these premises are true, and therefore anything that you say against these premises, you have a better explanation, or you have another explanation for, that doesn't come from the evidence, but instead it comes from either like part of the evidence not taking in consideration the other possible explanations, or it just is the only reason that you're saying you're making an excuse for that premise is to save your view from being falsified, not because the evidence demands it. So anyways, thinking is hard. I understand that. That's why it's like nobody likes to like, try to sit and like have to really kind of deeply analyze everything. But it's necessary in a lot of ways, especially when we're making these like big claims. We have to have some sort of mechanism that can help us check to see when we're being irrational and when we're not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I tweeted a day or two ago in a different context, but it was, people who are concerned about the level of manipulation and deception that are going on in the world. And I pointed out that if you're concerned about manipulation and deception, you're not going to convince a manipulator or a liar to stop manipulating and to stop lying because they're wrong. Right? You're not going to say, hey, manipulator, stop manipulating me. It's wrong. They're not going to change. A manipulator, a liar, they do what they do because it's the easiest way to get what they want. I said, if you want to stop a manipulator, you have to become a hard target. Right? You have to become someone who doesn't fall for manipulation. If enough people become hard targets, then the manipulation doesn't work anymore. And so the manipulator will then give up the method, not because he chooses to, but because it no longer gets him what he wants. But that's something similar to what you're talking about there. It's like you have to make yourself less susceptible to these things. One, don't fall for crazy ideas that people are presenting to you, but don't fall for your own crazy ideas either. If you have some sort of crazy idea and people are pointing out that sounds really crazy, don't think that, well, just because it's in my head, therefore it makes sense. It might not make sense. A lot of people have had a lot of crazy ideas, and I'd say we probably all have crazy ideas from time to time. And so you don't want to trust something just because it popped into your head. I've seen a lot of people pointing out something you were mentioning earlier, that some of what Kanye is saying are things that he's said in the past. So the question is, was he saying them in the past as part of manic episodes, or does he really believe this? So it's a question of, does he believe 100% of this stuff when he's not having a manic episode? Or does he believe 90% of it or 80% of it? Or like, even if it's 50% of it, that's still really, really, really messed up, bad stuff to be believing. But guess what? I mean, we're going to find out here pretty soon. We're going to find out. But here's the sad part. Kanye is going to snap out of this. It might be a couple weeks, might be a couple months. He's going to snap out of the manic episode, and then he'll be back to whatever he is when he's not having a manic episode. That might still be an anti-Semitic person who hates Jews and loves Hitler, or something like he said likes Hitler. Might be that, or he might not be that far gone. But he's going to snap out of this, and he's going to find out, he's destroyed his career. No one wants anything to do with him. No one wants to interact with him, be partners with him, and so on, except for the couple guys who sort of latched onto him like parasites because they're using this to get some popularity. And those guys, as soon as those guys are going to be gone. They're going to leave because they're just using him while they can. And so that's the concern. There is best case scenario. Kanye doesn't really believe a lot of this stuff, and it's only when he's on this wave of a manic episode that he starts liking Hitler and so on, and that when he snaps out of it, he's not going to think that anymore. But here's the thing, not all people with bipolar disorder go into the depression stage. If Kanye does, this is going to be bad, because he's going to, right now he feels invincible. Right now he feels he can take on the entire world. Once he snaps out of that, if he goes into a depression phase, right after he lost his wife, his kids, I'm sure none of them are going to want to have anything to do with him after this, lost all his business partnerships, all his collaborations in the music industry, lost literally billions of dollars already. He's going to find out he has just messed everything up. And to combine that with a depression phase and a guy who has fantasized about suicide in the past, that's gonna be bad.
Hey, real quick, there's a comment that I saw that I thought would be worth mentioning something about it. This comment says, all Kanye does is preach the gospel. The message of the gospel is to extend love to all people.
Oh my goodness.
Now, yeah, that's not the gospel. And this is the problem, I think, with a lot of Christians too, because I don't know if I've ever heard Kanye preach the gospel. And I've listened to him a long time. He probably has, I'm sure, probably right when he first started doing his Sunday services and stuff, maybe. But the gospel is not the message of the gospel. Jesus didn't come to say, come extend love to all people. Even by then, we're talking about love in the Bible. Usually the word agape love is what we're talking about, with God's love for us and the type of love we're supposed to have for others. It's called agape love. That's not a feeling. And so, but regardless, that aside, so the gospel message is just that Christ died for our sins. He died and resurrected for us so that way we could be rightly related with God and thereby have an everlasting life. Okay, that's the gospel message. That's the message of the gospel where Jesus came. The entire Bible is not about just being nice to other people. This is how we ought to live as Christians. But the gospel message it's a salvation type deal as well too. And even Kanye will say that he doesn't understand a lot of Christianity and stuff, and he's a baby Christian and this and that. So to say that all he's doing is preaching the gospel, I don't even think Kanye would agree with that, probably. You know what I mean? So anyways, I just wanted to kind of point that out, because I mean, some of the comments kind of defending Kanye are just ridiculous. Yeah. A lot of these comments from Christians, if they are Christians, I can't tell by looking at these comments, but they're just sound ridiculous. Like these excuses, it doesn't do any of us any favors for us to be defending things that are clearly evil. It's like when I did a video on Jeffrey Dahmer, the video was talking about salvation. It wasn't saying that what Jeffrey Dahmer did or making excuses for what he did or saying that it's okay. You don't have to okay what people say and do. Just defending the person is the worst type of thing. And that kind of aspect is you don't want to defend evil behavior. You just don't. As Christians, we should not be trying to defend evil behavior. So there's a difference there.
And yeah, because I've also seen the people trying to defend Kanye and act as if he's just saying, but we're supposed to love all people. Notice how you can't even make sense of that given what he's saying. Because if you were going to say, when he says he likes Hitler and that Hitler did all these great things and Everyone brings something to the table, especially Hitler. Notice it's especially, like he's doing something great beyond other people. That is just awful. But suppose you went with the most charitable interpretation of Kanye and concluded that he's just saying, no matter what these people have done, you should just love them and say positive things about them anyway. If that's the case, why wouldn't you do the same thing with Netanyahu? Why wouldn't you do the same thing with Zionists or Ben Shapiro? Why wouldn't you just be showering them with love? So it makes no sense to have nothing but contempt and hatred and animosity towards this group, and then to shower people who slaughtered millions of people, shower them with praise and say how wonderful they are, and to interpret that as just saying, well, we're supposed to love everyone. Doesn't make sense. If you were doing that, you should be doing that to everyone. He's not. He's taking the worst people, some of the worst people who've done some of the most heinous things of all time, showering them with praise, and then justifying it by pointing out how bad what people gave you a bad music deal, stuff like that. Like that's insane, right? That's absolutely insane. So yeah, I agree.
And to be clear,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, to be clear, he did say that he loves everybody, even the Zionists and all that too.
That's true.
But the point that you're making is which I thought was still valid, is because the thing is if that's the case, if you're praising somebody that did all of these awful things, then you should equally be praising people who did lesser crimes. We can just put it that way, right? Nothing Ben Shapiro has done, and nothing that Netanyahu, I don't really know much about Netanyahu, I'll be honest. But anyways, I'm sure, nothing he's done still isn't nearly as bad as what Hitler has done too, and the Nazis and stuff too. So, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to point a... What are you going to blame Ben Shapiro for? Why are you going after Ben Shapiro? Don't say anything bad about Hitler, but make fun of Ben Shapiro. That's just that, guys. If it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. Okay. If it looks like someone just hates Jews, guys, keep in mind, I think I'm giving him as much of a benefit of the doubt as I possibly can, saying, maybe he doesn't believe this stuff. Maybe that's the best case scenario, and maybe he's just going through a mental episode right now. I mean, I'd say he's clearly going through a mental episode. I don't know how much of this he believes apart from that, but that's as charitable as I think it is possible to be. To conclude that no, he's just saying love everyone doesn't work. We did have a comment here about Milo. We weren't really talking about Milo or Nick Fuentes much, but yeah, I have nothing but contempt for these guys now. And I'm saying this as someone who, back when Milo was just going around college campuses annoying people, he was cracking me up. So I can't say I was a tremendous fan, but I've always liked the people who go on college campuses and people try to shout them down, and they stand their ground and make fun of the people who are trying to shout them down. I liked those guys, and back then it was an interesting situation because Milo was this flamboyantly gay conservative guy, and he would go there, and the kids on the college campuses had all been trained that whenever anyone is defending any sort of like conservative position, you just call them racist and anti-LGBTQ. And so that's the only method they know. And so Milo would show up and they'd call him racist and anti-LGBTQ. And he would say, what are you talking about? I'm gay and my boyfriend's black. And so and it was just watching the expressions of the people who were trying to shout him down when you would see it on their faces like, we don't know what to do now. We've been programmed to use this one response to anyone we disagree with. And we do not know what to do with this person anymore because he's gay and his boyfriend is black. And so what do we say now? And so that was entertaining to watch. And so when he got banned off Twitter because of a lot of his fans were harassing someone, and so he got kicked off Twitter. And I was not a fan of kicking him off Twitter for what his fans were doing. But then later he got in trouble for defending relationships between underage boys, not little tiny kids, but underage boys and grown men, and that's when it was like, for a lot of people, oh, okay, yeah, can't this guy, we're not watching this guy anymore. And so that sort of torpedoed his popularity. But notice that's something that happens repeatedly when people's claim to fame, the thing that makes them popular for a time, is saying stuff that really is shocking to people, right? You keep saying shocking things. For people like that, they tend not to last long, because if you keep saying enough shocking things, eventually you tick everyone off. So this is why I don't think Andrew Tate's going to be here very long. He just rose to popularity recently. He's become popular by saying all these shocking things. Guess what? He's going to keep blurting out things until he's in so much trouble that no one can defend him anymore. So anyway, my only point there was, back when Milo was just ticking off college students who could not handle anyone disagreeing with them, I thought that was cool. Then defending some, relationships with underage guys, okay, that's creepy. Can't deal with this anymore. But now to sort of latch on to Kanye and be his campaign manager for president. If you're Nick Fuentes or Milo Yiannopoulos, that's delusional. Kanye's not going to become president. That. The level of insane you'd have to be to think Kanye is going to become president of the United States is beyond anything. Kanye has some mental health problems, which is probably why he thinks he can be president. But he still seems to think, yes, and people agree with me, and people are going to support me, and people are going to vote for me, and so on. No. And Milo and Nick Fuentes are smart enough to know that's insanely delusional. The fact that they're latching onto him when he clearly needs some mental health help. These guys are scumbags. Nick Fuentes, I think, was a scumbag. I didn't know what to think of Milo, except for, the weird perverted stuff, with teenage boys or something like that. Not saying he did. I'm saying he defended it at some point. Guys, my goodness. If Kanye had any genuine friends, they'd be telling him right now, you should not be on screen right now. You should not be doing interviews right now. You need to go someplace out in the middle of nowhere, either in a mental hospital, or if you don't want, just go hang out in a hotel somewhere, stay out of trouble until this wears off and you calm down. Instead, it's, hey, here's a guy who, even though he's lost billions of dollars worth of deals, he's still rich. And so we can latch onto him for some last minute popularity until he burns out. And then we'll be more popular and his career will be over. And that's just, that's evil, man. That's evil stuff.
Yeah, man. It is somewhat discouraging seeing Christians defend everything that a Republican says, or everything that that some people who they agree with on some issue, as if everything they say is just like got to be true. It's like we have to be able to be more discerning and be more wise, and being able to start separating, you know what I mean, on some things that people say, you know what I mean. We don't have to swallow everything people say. This is why I think it's so important that for us to have like some amount of biblical knowledge too, so that way we can be able to discern between when people are saying something that's not biblical and what's just cultural Christianity, or even like conservative type Christianity, where all these issues are blended in with just politics and stuff. It's like we have to be careful with that. I think that's one of the bigger challenges today for Christians, is like you have to start getting into the Word and start being able to know it for yourself, or it is very, very, very easy to be deceived. There's just no shortcuts. You have to learn it yourself, I think, so, but yeah, it's a strange time, man, a very strange time to be alive and to start seeing all of this craziness. So.
Yeah. And there's touching on what you just said, and then we'll go ahead and close out. There's a problem with groups, but it's more of a problem when groups become massively polarized, like they're in opposition to each other. If you take let's say a wolf can live on its own, right? A wolf can go along and be a wolf in nature. When there are some sort of outside threats, wolves tend to function more as a pack. In other words, a lone wolf will want to go join a pack. And once you become part of a pack, then there's a hierarchy there, right? There's a hierarchy in the pack. But humans are like that in the sense that, there's you, and you've got a family and so on, and your job, and you're going about your normal life. You may not feel any sort of need to go out and join a group. But if you start feeling like you're attacked, like people are attacking you, they're coming after you, they're coming after your kids. I don't mean to do physical harm to them. I mean, ideologically, they're coming after you. The tendency is to join some group that will defend you from the opposition. The problem is, once groups become increasingly polarized, in order to demonstrate your value to the group, you can't be disagreeing with the group. So you may sign on because you have a problem with the opposition and say, okay, well, this is the group that's dealing with the opposition. Guess what? Group dynamics take over, and you can't criticize anything that the group says, or the group will eat you alive and say, you disagree with us on this, then you're part of them, that group that they're against. And so everyone just has to start agreeing to a collection of ideas. Even though, wait a minute, I just didn't like that one idea over there, and you guys are against that idea, so I'm signing on. Nope, now here's a list of things that you have to agree with. And a lot of them can be completely disconnected from the others. And yet the psychological pressure will be to agree to all of them, because if not, if you don't agree to everything, if you start challenging or questioning things, the group will cast you out, and then you're in no man's land, and you don't feel safe. You don't feel safe anymore. So that's why it's dangerous to say, hey, I'm this group, or I'm that political party, and so on.
Yeah. And to add to that point real quick, also the problem is too, is when one group starts becoming more and more extreme, the other group responds by becoming more and more extreme. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what happened a lot kind of in politics too, because they're in response to each other, they have to kind of keep pushing so hard. It's like two magnets that are pushing against each other. Because of that, like now I think that like things have changed so much that we have these things. Like, for example, if you think about like some issues like so say for Christians, like, okay, so there's these issues. So say same-sex marriage. So you shouldn't have, marriage should only be between a man and a woman, right? And then you have like we're defending the life of the unborn and children. Then you have, I say issues like what's some other ones? Man, my brain just went blank. But basically, what I'm saying is that you have these issues that are all like biblically centric issues. But some of them sound conservative, some of them sound liberal. And then because we're so like, these people are so evil, we can't agree with anything that other side says. Doesn't matter what side you're on. This is how they talk about the other side. You can't agree with anything they say. What happens is that you're compromising biblical integrity because of it. You know what I mean? And so you're saying, okay, well, I can't. So you're going to keep hush about the ones that are biblical, but actually don't fit into a political category. You know what I mean? And then you have the other side kind of doing the same thing. Depending if you're in New York at a church or if you're in Louisiana at a church, you know what I mean? It's drastically different. And so because of that, it's like, this is why politics has become this kind of overarching thing a lot. And a lot of these things too. I mean, this goes in with like the Kanye situation, but these overarching things that we read, that we interpret the Bible through. And because of that, I think it really stops us from getting to know God for who he really is and what he really says. And I think that that's a huge problem that we have today. So.
Yeah. And, if people think we're going off on a tangent here, it's not. This is connected to everything we're saying. So if you have two groups, right? Now, normally you think, okay, there's two groups, and hopefully they be pretty close together, not too far apart. You know, we have some disagreements and so on. But as they start becoming more polarized and heading in opposite directions, notice if this group defines that group as, let's say, Nazis, like anyone in that group is a Nazi, the tendency will be to move further and further away. Because notice, if you have a group that sort of represents all the people in that group, and these are the people furthest away and these are people here, the people who are closest to that other group, in terms of being least polarized, those will be attacked by their own group for not being far enough away from the other group. Yeah. And so the tendency is for the group to move further and further away from the other group. But notice, everyone's becoming more and more divided. And so anyway, the point here is you have to watch for stuff like that, because if you're part of a group and all of a sudden that group says, there's this massive conspiracy and Nazis are actually not as bad as we all think and so on, you start pushing those ideas. But if you're sort of part of a group that has signed on to that, then what do? You don't want to be expelled from the group. Fortunately, not a lot of people subscribe to that. But I mean, I've I've seen a disturbing number of people say, he's right about that. He's right about the Jews and stuff like that. So anyway, guys, your loyalty should be to Christ. And if there is some particular issue that you happen to agree with other people on, then that's awesome and so on. But if any group that starts trying to convince you have to agree with them on everything, and some of that stuff is just not stuff you agree on, you need to be careful about those groups, especially if some of what the group teaches is completely anti-Christian. So make sure your allegiance is ultimately to Christ. Any final thoughts, John, before we close out here?
Not really. I mean, just everybody, just of course, keep Kanye in prayer. No matter what your beliefs are about Kanye, keep him in prayer, of course, and we pray that his conversion, it was genuine. You know what I mean? I mean, I never feel comfortable saying if somebody's saved or not. A lot of people say, Mother Freaks, that passage, it's talking about false prophets in Matthew 7:15 through 20. So yeah, I'd say that we want to pray for Kanye, pray for everybody that's been affected, and we pray for more unity within the church, within Christians and stuff, and that we can just work better together to give God more glory. And God help us to just be more faithful servants, all of us, more faithful servants, and not to shame his name, and for us to actually just work harder at giving him glory and putting ourselves and our egos further and further aside for his glory. So.
Yeah, so pray for Kanye to get past this, and to, I would say, to get some good friends, to be protected from the parasites who want to feed off him when he's clearly having an episode, and whatever he does, however much he does believe of the insane things he's saying, let's just hope he has some good friends who can talk him down from some of these positions. And and if he doesn't, if he is going to keep proclaiming these horrible things, I pray that the Almighty just shuts his mouth and just takes away any degree of popularity that he has, so no one listens to this nonsense. All right, so those are our thoughts on these issues. Hope you agree with us, because if you don't, you're wrong. But John, just let me ask, John, the next time someone tells you that Hitler invented highways and microphones, what are you going to say?
What do you mean?
Indeed.
All right, I can't put that anymore.